Hey there, listeners, and welcome back to Fear and Flame Podcast. I'm Brooklyn.
I'm Mason.
Wyatt.
And today, we're doing a little segment called Fear and Flame Forum. So we're going to share some internet stories handpicked by us. So strike a match, light a candle, and settle in.
Because you guys won't send us anything. Because you don't exist yet. It's all right, though. We'll get there.
This one's sure to ignite some fear.
Yeah.
You don't exist yet.
We'll get there.
They exist. They're just,
Hey,
they just
39. I think 38. We're getting up there, guys. All right.
pulling numbers.
All right. We'll be at 100 by Christmas, I'm hoping.
I wouldn't bet on it.
We'll celebrate.
We'll see. It'll be okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and start out with our first story. This is an r/no sleep story. It's called, it has a very long title, but it's from a user named Gamal Frank. It says, I'm a long haul trucker. I stopped for a lost kid on a deserted highway in the dead of the night. What I saw attached to him and the question he asked is why I don't drive anymore. I'm excited about this one.
Because I've read enough no sleep stories to where I'm at the point, the longer the title is, the worse I think it's going to be.
Yeah,
To be honest, because when they keep adding on stuff, well, we've already told half of it.
Instead of just being like, I'm a long haul trucker.
Yeah.
This is my story. It's like, yeah, so we'll see. But like, what was that one that Creepcast read where it's like something about my wife keeps smiling at me or something?
Oh,
like
like
that
out of,
behind
like
corners?
from, yeah, I don't
And
like
it
that.
just fell apart. Fell apart. So I'm hopeful, but not really. Let's get
This one is longer, but it's not like crazy long. So I'll go ahead and start reading it. The reason I liked it is because there's just something intriguing to me about just truckers anyways. I don't trust the breed. I don't like truckers very much.
Hey, I don't know if I'd say
Pawpaw was a trucker at one point, and I like hearing his stories, and I love my Pawpaw. But for the most part, I have a
fell off.
bias against truckers.
It fell off.
If you're a trucker, I don't have a bias against you. But all the other
I'm not
ones,
watching this.
You're one of
I
the
have,
good ones.
I have a problem with you. Anyways,
I hear about the things they've been caught doing in those trucks.
Yeah, this would
Going
be.
down the highway.
well, I've been targeted. I almost died.
You gotta show them who's boss.
They like every single one of them because they have their little radios. They work together. Every single trucker you're driving by is
What,
flipping you
Hindu?
off and flashing you, trying to run you off the highway.
What'd you do?
Nothing. They were getting on to it was a 2-lane highway. We weren't even in the way. We moved over for them.
A woman driver didn't do anything to cause...
No.
Whatever you say, pal.
This happened a few years back. I was doing long haul, mostly cross-country routes, the kind that take you through vast stretches of nothing. You know, the ones where the radio turns to static for hours and the only sign of life is the occasional pair of headlights going the other way, miles apart. I was young, eager for the miles, the money. Didn't mind the solitude, or so I thought. The route I was on took me across a long, desolate stretch of highway that ran between the borders of 2 large governmental territories. I don't want to say exactly where, but think big, empty spaces, lots of trees, and not much else. It was notorious among drivers for being a dead zone. No signal, no towns for hundreds of miles on either side, and prone to weird weather. Most guys try to hit it during the daylight, but schedules are schedules. Mine had me crossing it deep into the night. I remember the feeling. Utter blackness outside the sweep of my headlights. The kind of dark that feels like it's pressing in on the cab. The only sounds were the drone of the diesel engine, the hiss of the air brakes now and then, and the rhythmic thrum of the tires on asphalt. Hypnotic, too hypnotic. I've been driving for about 10 hours, with a short break a few states back. Coffee was wearing off, the dashboard lights were a dull green glow, comforting in a way, but also making the darkness outside seem even more absolute. My eyelids felt like they'd lead weights attached. You fight it, you know. Slap your face, roll down the window for a blast of cold air, crank up whatever music you can find that hasn't dissolved into static. I was doing all of that. It must have been around 2 or 3 a.m. It's in that weird state where you're not quite asleep, but not fully awake either. Like your brain is running on low power mode. The white lines on the road were starting to blur together, stretching and warping. Standard fatigue stuff. I remember blinking hard, trying to refocus. That's when I saw it. Or I thought I saw it. We'll stop there for just a second because every time I do think of truckers, like the genuine thing was like just them talking about driving, being so exhausted, but you have a schedule you have to meet, so you have to keep going no matter what. Mm-hmm. And I think of this story that Pawpaw tells about basically being on speed mm-hmm. and seeing like demons, or you see all kinds of crazy stuff. It's just your mind playing tricks on you, which your mind does that anyways, even if you aren't tired. But whenever you're taking drugs to try to keep you awake. So this is kind of what it reminds me of. This is supposed to not be like that. Like, it's supposed to be real,
Yeah.
but...
This guy's not on drugs?
Nope.
Unlikely.
When was this set? The 80s? Yeah.
Yeah, he is on drugs. No, this story is from 1 month ago. That's kind of why I picked it, because it's a newer one. I thought that was kind of cool. Just a flicker at the edge of my headlights on the right shoulder of the road, small, low to the ground. For a split second, I registered a shape, vaguely human-like, and then it was gone, swallowed by the darkness as I passed. My first thought, deer, or a coyote. Common enough, but it hadn't moved like an animal. It had been upright. My brain, sluggish as it was, tried to process it. Too small for an adult. Too still for an animal startled by a rig. Then the logical part, the part that was still trying to keep me safe on the road, chimed in. You're tired, seeing things, happens. And I almost accepted that. I really did. Shook my head, took a swig of lukewarm water from the bottle beside me, kept my eyes glued to the road ahead. The image, though, it kind of stuck. A small, upright shape. Like a child. No way, I told myself. Out here, middle of nowhere, middle of the night, impossible. Kids don't just wander around out interterritorial highways at 3 a.m. It had to be a trick of the light, a bush, my eyes playing games. I've seen weirder things born of exhaustion. Shadows that dance, trees that look like figures. It's part of the job when you're pushing the limits. I drove on for maybe another 30 seconds, the image fading. My rational mind starting to win, just a figment. Then I glanced at my passenger side mirror. Habit, always checking. And my blood went cold. Not just cold, it felt like it turned to slush. There, illuminated faint by the red glow of my trailer lights receding into the distance, was the reflection of a small figure, standing on the shoulder of the road, exactly where I thought I'd seen something. It wasn't a bush, it wasn't a shadow. It was small, and it was definitely standing there and moving as my truck pulled further and further away. My heart started hammering against my ribs. This wasn't fatigue, this was real. There was something back there, and it looked tiny. Every instinct screamed at me. Danger. Wrong. Keep going. But another voice, the one that makes us human, I suppose, whispered something else. A kid? Alone out here? What if they're hurt? Lost? I fought with myself for a few seconds. That stretched into an eternity. The image in the mirror was getting smaller, fainter. If I didn't act now, they'd be lost to the darkness again. God, the thought of leaving a child out there, if that's what it was.
I may not be the best person. I'm not stopping. There's not that little voice or whatever. Maybe I'm not human.
You don't have that voice.
No, if everything else is like, yeah, it's 3 a.m.
Hundreds and hundreds of miles from
there's
civilization.
There's not just like he's right. There's not just a random kid out in the middle of like some random highway in Nevada and wherever. Like, no.
I'm sure it was like sleep deprivation, something. Which I've seen, like driving home at night, out late and stuff like that. I've seen stuff and had to like look back again and do double takes and.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Even if it's not creepy, like I've thought that I've seen an animal, like a rabbit or something, you know, just random things and nothing, look back and nothing be there. Or maybe it was just quick enough to dart off, but.
Dude, I'm not, like, especially another person. If I think that maybe another human being out there.
It's just hard when it's a kid that we just know too much and we've seen too much horror things, scary things. Because I'd be like, oh, yep, somebody's using that kid to try to cut it.
That's my thought too. Was like, yeah, like that's just gonna be like, oh, you know, the good old like, oh, sir, I'm hurting, you know, and then there's like the gang of raiders over, like, you know, in the bush.
Literally.
Like, oh, no, I ain't stopping.
No, probably not.
No.
I would call someone, like once I got cell service, I'd call the police or something. I don't know that I could stop.
Yeah.
No.
What do you think this guy does?
Oh, he stopped.
Yeah, obviously.
The story. Yeah. We should roll
What if
credits
it just
right
ended
now.
right there?
Yeah, being kind-hearted will lead to
That'd be
his
good.
downfall.
Yeah.
Against my better judgment, against the primal urge to just floor it, I made a decision. I slowed the rig, the air brakes hissing like angry snakes. Pulled over to the shoulder, the truck groaning in protest. Put on my hazards, the rhythmic flashing cutting into the oppressive blackness. Yeah, that goes a little out there. It's okay. Then I did what you're never supposed to do with a full trailer on a narrow shoulder. I started to reverse. Slowly. Carefully. My eyes flicking between the mirrors, trying to keep the trailer straight. Trying to relocate that tiny figure. The crunch of gravel under the tire sounded unnaturally loud. It took a minute, maybe 2, but it felt like an hour. The red glow of my taillights eventually washed over the spot again. And there it was. A kid. I stopped the truck so my cab was roughly alongside them, maybe 10 feet away. Switched on high beams, hoping to get a better look and also to make myself clearly visible as just a truck, not something else. The kid was small. Really small. I'd guess maybe 6, 7 years old. Hard to tell in the glare. They were just standing there, on the very edge of the gravel shoulder, right where the trees began. The woods pressed in close on this stretch of road, tall dark pines and dense undergrowth that looked like a solid black wall just beyond the reach of my lights. The kid wasn't looking at me. They were facing sort of parallel to the road, just walking. Slowly, like they were on a stroll. Completely oblivious to the massive 18-wheeler that had just pulled up beside them, engine rumbling. Lights blazing. They were wearing what looked like pajamas. Thin, light-colored pajamas in the chill of the night. No coat, no shoes that I could see. My mind reeled. This was wrong. So many levels of wrong.
Not a good sign.
I just wait to see your facial
The kid
expressions.
that, like, okay, so you tell me the kid doesn't even look over.
How did he get
we're
back in the
putting-
truck?
Yeah,
Back
we'd
and
be
drive.
like, they don't even notice me.
He's got it. He's
He'll
got
be
it.
all right.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, obviously.
I mean, good night.
I killed the engine. The sudden silence was almost deafening, amplifying the crickets, the rustle of leaves in the woods from a breeze I couldn't feel in the cab. My heart was still thumping, a weird mix of fear and adrenaline and dawning sense of responsibility. I rolled down the window. The night air hit me, cold and damp, carrying the scent of pine and wet earth. "Hey," I called out. My voice sounded hoarse, too loud in the quiet. "Hey, kid." No response. They just kept walking, one small bare foot in front of the other, at a pace that was taking them absolutely nowhere fast. Their head was down slightly. I couldn't see their face properly. "Kid, are you okay?" I tried again, louder this time. Slowly, so slowly, the kids stopped. They didn't turn their head fully, just sort of angled it at a fraction enough that I could see a pale sliver of cheek in the spill of my headlights. Still not looking at me, still ignoring the multi-ton machine idling beside them. A prickle of unease ran down my spine. Not the normal kind of unease. This was deeper, colder. Animals act weird sometimes, but kids? A lost kid should be scared, relieved, something. This was nothing. "What are you even doing out here all alone?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm, friendly, like you're supposed to with a scared kid, even though this one didn't seem scared at all. "It's the middle of the night." Silence. Just the sound of their bare feet scuffling softly on the gravel as they took another step, then another, as if my presence was a minor inconvenience, a background noise they were choosing to ignore. This wasn't right. My internal alarm bells were clanging louder now. My hand hovered near the gear stick. So he's not even out of the truck yet. He's still in the
just
truck,
shouting
just
down.
talking. Yeah. So he has his hand on the gear stick, just like waiting to see how this, trying to see how this interaction goes. Part of me wanted to slam it into drive and get the hell
Hello.
out of there.
Yeah.
But the image of this tiny child alone, possibly in shock, I couldn't just leave. Could I?
I could.
I mean, dude, like, especially if this fella, like, so you're yelling at this kid, And he's right. If it's like a little 6, 7-year-old kid, it should probably not like being alone on the side of the road, 3 in the morning. If it's just like, kind of like, oh man, well, there's the guy back there.
It's one thing for it to just completely ignore you. Like, okay, all right, I'll just leave you to be.
Yeah.
Because, like, you could argue, oh, maybe it's like they're sleepwalking or something like that. But the fact that it kind of slowed down.
Yeah. And
Though to barely turn the head is what gets me. I don't like that.
Yeah, it doesn't want you to see its
That's like a grown man that's acting shady. That kind of look when you kind of interact with, like, the... Yeah, I don't like that
it's
at all.
like a drug addict is what I think
I don't like
of.
that.
Like the...
Yeah.
Where are your parents? I pushed my voice a little bit sharper than I intended. Are you lost? Finally, the kids stopped walking completely. They turned their head just a little more, still not looking directly at my cab, more towards the front of my truck, into the glare of the headlights. I could see their face a bit better now, pale, featureless in the harsh light, like a porcelain doll. Small dark smudges that might have been eyes, no expression, none. Not fear, not sadness, not relief, just blank, an unreadable slate. Then a voice, small, thin, like the rustle of dry leaves. Lost. Just one word. It hung in the air between us.
Roll out.
Well, that's too bad, kid.
Yeah.
That is too bad.
Well,
I hope you get found, but it's not going to be by me.
I'll call somebody.
Maybe when
See
I
you
get
around,
cell
buddy.
service again.
Good night. No, yeah.
So he says, relief washed over me.
No, it shouldn't have.
That is the wrong feeling to have.
Good.
That's the wrong feeling. Quickly followed by a fresh wave of concern. Okay, lost. That's something I can deal with. Okay, kid. Lost is okay. We can fix lost. Where do you live? Where were you going? The kid
Where did you
finally...
come from?
Yeah,
God
where
knows,
did you go? Where did you come from? God knows, Joe. What if they just started dancing in there?
That's it.
Did you come from? Where did you go? I would actually love the way that story
That'd
ended.
be a better
If that
ending
was
than what's about to happen. I'd be happy.
The kid finally slowly turned their head fully towards my cab. Towards me. I still couldn't make out much detail in their face, the angle, the light. Something was obscuring it, keeping it in a sort of shadowy vagueness despite the headlights. But I could feel their gaze. It wasn't like a normal kid's look. There was a weight to it, an intensity that was deeply unsettling for such a small form. Home, the kid said, the same thin, reedy voice. Trying to get home. Right, home. Where is home? I asked, leaning forward a bit, trying to project reassurance. Is it near here? Did you wander off from a campsite, a car? There were no campsites for miles, no broken down cars on the shoulder. I knew that. The kid didn't answer that question directly. Instead, they took a small step towards the truck.
Nope.
Then another.
Because he hasn't said anything, like, he hasn't said an original word yet.
No.
has he?
They just
He's only
repeated.
repeated
Just
so
repeating.
far.
My hand tensed on the door handle, ready to open it. To offer... what? A ride? Shelter? I didn't know. It's cold out here. Oh, that's not the kid. Okay. 1 second. Wrong POV. It's cold out here, I said, stating the obvious. You should get in. We can get you warm, and I can call for help when we get a spot with signal. My CB was useless, just static. My phone had shown no service for the last hour. The kid stopped about 5 feet from my passenger door. Still in that pale, thin pajama-like outfit, barefoot on the sharp gravel. They should be shivering, crying. They were doing neither. Can you help me? The kid asked. The voice was still small, but there was a different inflection to it now. Less flat, a hint of something else. Pleading, maybe? Yeah, of course I can help you, I said. That's why I stopped. Where are your parents? How did you get here? The kid tilted their head. A jerky, unnatural movement. They're waiting at home. Okay, where's home? What direction? I gestured vaguely, up and down the empty highway. The kid didn't point down the road. They made a small, subtle gesture with their head, a little nod towards the trees, towards the impenetrable darkness of the woods lining the highway. In there, the kid said. My stomach clenched. In the woods? Your home is in the woods? Lost, the kid repeated, as if explaining everything. Trying to find the path. It's dark. Yeah, it's very dark, I agreed, my eyes scanning the tree line. I looked at a solid wall of black. No sign of any path, any habitation, just dense old-growth forest. The kind of place you could get lost in for days, even in daylight. Can you come out? The kid asked. Help me look.
Nope. Nope.
I got a hot load here.
Yep.
I gotta
be there 7 in the morning.
The
Sorry.
boys are thirsty in Atlanta, you know.
And there's beer in Texarkana. Son. I'll see you later.
The kid asked, help me look. It's not far. I just can't see it from here. Every rational thought in my head screamed, no. Get out of the truck in the middle of nowhere in the pitch dark with this strange kid who wanted me to go into the woods? No, absolutely not. But the kid looked so small, so vulnerable. If there was even a tiny chance they were telling the truth, that their house wasn't just a little way in, then they were genuinely lost. I don't think that's a good idea, buddy, I said, trying to sound gentle. It's dangerous in there at night for both of us. Best thing is for you to hop in here with me. We'll drive until we get a signal, and then we'll call the police or the rangers, and they can help you find your home properly. The kid just stood there, that blank, unreadable face fixed on me. But it's right there, they insisted, their voice with a little more persistence now. Just a little way, I can almost see it. If you just step out, the light from the door will help. My skin was crawling. There was something profoundly wrong with this scenario. The way they were trying to coax me out, the lack of normal emotional response, the pajamas, the bare feet, the woods. I looked closer at the kid, trying to pierce that strange vagueness around their features. My headlights were bright, but it was like they absorbed the light rather than reflected it. Their eyes, I still couldn't really see their eyes. Just dark hollows. I really think you should get in the truck, I said, my voice firmer now. It's warmer in here. We can figure it out together. The kid took another step closer. They were almost at my running board now. Please, they said, that reedy voice again. My leg hurts. I can't walk much further. If you could just help me a little, just to the path. My internal conflict was raging. My trucker instincts, honed by years of seeing weird stuff and hearing even weirder stories at truck stops, were blaring warnings. But the human part, the part that saw a child in distress, was still there, still arguing. I was tired. So tired. Maybe I wasn't thinking straight. Maybe this was all some bizarre misunderstanding. I squinted, trying to see past the kid, towards the tree line they indicated. Was there a faint trail I was missing? A flicker of light deep in the woods? No. Nothing, just blackness, solid, unyielding blackness. And then I saw it. It wasn't something I saw clearly at first. It was more like an anomaly, a disturbance in the darkness behind the kid. The kid was standing with their back mostly to the woods, facing my truck. Behind them, the darkness of the forest was absolute. Or it should have been. But there was something connected to them. Something that stretched from the small of their back, from under the thin pajama top, and disappeared deeper into the shadow of the trees. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light, a weird shadow cast by my headlights hitting them at an odd angle. Maybe a rope they were dragging, a piece of clothing that snagged on a branch. I leaned forward, trying to get a clear view. The kid was still talking with a low, persistent murmur. It's not far. Please, just help me. I'm so cold. But I wasn't really listening to the words anymore. I was focused on that thing behind them. It wasn't a rope. It wasn't a shadow. It was a tube. A long, dark, thick tube. It seemed to emerge directly from the kid's lower back. Impossibly, seamlessly. It was dark matte, like a strip of the night itself given form, and it snaked away from the child, maybe 10, 15 feet before disappearing into the inky blackness between two thick pine trunks. It wasn't rigid. It seemed to have a slight, almost imperceptible flexibility, like a massive, sluggish umbilical cord made of shadow. It didn't reflect any light from my headlamps. It just absorbed it. My breath hitched in my throat. My blood, which had been cold before, now felt like it had frozen solid. This wasn't just wrong. This was impossible. Unnatural. Any thoughts so far? On the kid's umbilical cord that ties to the trees in the woods?
Time to go.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Yeah, buddy. Yes, I reckon.
If you're a trucker, do not take drugs to be able to stay awake.
It makes me think like anglerfish.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was about. I was trying to remember what they're called. Yeah, no, it's for sure. That's a trap.
Is that the one with the light?
It's
like on Nemo?
Mm-hmm.
It's because, like, too, I love whenever they're talking about how he's trying to see, like, the features of the kid's face, and it's just like he can't. Like, it's almost like, you know, like where...
You just can't focus on it.
Like, it's like, you know there's something there, but it's, I love that. I love that part.
Which is even worse because of him being tired and it being dark. Like, all of the things tying in and playing together.
It almost makes sense, but...
That you can't, but...
Yeah.
Just not quite right. Yeah, I love that.
Makes me feel sick to my stomach.
Oh, man.
I already don't like kids. The more kids stories I read, like, maybe I should
you got
stop.
this little cracker right there being like, hey, man.
I'd be like, well, if I were you, I'd start walking towards them woods then.
Yeah, I'm like, get away from my step,
well,
please.
You ain't gonna make it. You ain't gonna get there over here, man. You better get back on in.
Here, I'll throw you flashlights.
Yeah, good luck.
Need a hand? Well, you got two.
The kid was still trying to coax me. Are you gonna help me? It's just there. You're so close. My voice, when I finally found it, was barely a whisper. I couldn't take my eyes off of that appendage. Kid, what is that behind you? The kid flinched. Not a big movement, just a tiny, almost imperceptible tightening of their small frame. Their head, which had been tilted pleadingly, straightened. The blankness on their face seemed to solidify. What's what? They asked, the voice suddenly devoid of that pleading tone. It was flat again, colder. That thing, I stammered, pointing with a shaking finger, coming out of your back, going into the woods. What is that? The kid didn't turn to look. They didn't need to. Their gaze, those dark, unseen eyes, bored into me. It's nothing, they said. The voice was still small, but it had a new edge to it, a hardness. You're seeing things. You're tired. They were using my own earlier rationalizations against me. No, I said, my voice gaining a tremor of conviction born of sheer terror. No, I'm not. I see it. It's right there. It's connected to you. The kid was silent for a long moment. The only sound was the thumping of my own heart, so loud I was sure they could hear it. The crickets had stopped. The wind seemed to die down. An unnatural stillness fell over the scene. I love that they put that in there because every time we talk about something creepy out in the woods, it is like stillness, nothing. Yeah.
That's how you know something's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're out in the woods
instant
and
you hear
it's
it go
nothing,
quiet.
Yeah. Something bad's not
good.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
The kid's face began to change. It wasn't a dramatic movie monster transformation. It was far more subtle and far more terrifying. The blankness didn't leave, but it was sharpened. The pale skin seemed to tighten over the bones. The areas where the eyes were, those dark smudges seemed to deepen, to become more shadowed, more intense, and a flicker of something ancient and utterly alien passed across their features. It wasn't human anger. It was something older, colder, and infinitely more patient, now strained to its limits. The air in my cab suddenly felt thick, heavy, hard to breathe. Just come out of the truck, the kid said, and the voice. Oh, the voice, it wasn't small. It wasn't a reedy voice of a child anymore. It was deeper, resonant, with a strange grating undertone like stones grinding together. It was coming from that small frame, but it was impossibly large, impossibly old. It vibrated in my chest. Come out now. The command was absolute. My hand, which had been hovering near the gear stick, now gripped it like a lifeline. My other hand fumbled for the ignition key, which I stupidly left in. What are you? I choked out, staring at the monstrous thing playing dress up in a child's form, at the dark, pulsating tube that was its anchor to the shadows. The kid's head tilted again. The jerky, unnatural movement. The expression on its face, if you could call it that, was one of pure, unadulterated annoyance. Contempt. Like I was particularly stupid insect it had failed to swat. And then it spoke in that same terrible, resonant, grinding voice. The words it said are burned into my memory, colder than any winter night. Why? It rasped, the sound seeming to scrape the inside of my skull. How are humans smarter now? That was it. That was the one sentence, the sheer cosmic frustration in it, the implication of past encounters, of easier prey, the utter alien nature of it. I didn't think, I didn't plan. I reacted. Primal fear, the kind that bypasses all higher brain function, took over. My hand twisted the key, the diesel engine roared back to life, a sudden violent explosion of sound and the horrifying stillness. The kid, the thing actually recoiled. A small jerky step back. The expression, that awful, tightened, ancient look intensified. I slammed the gear stick into drive. My foot stomped on the accelerator. The truck lurched forward, tires spinning on the gravel for a terrifying second before they bit into the asphalt. I didn't look at it. I couldn't. I stared straight ahead, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, the whole cab vibrating around me. The truck surged forward, gaining speed with agonizing slowness for a horrible moment. I imagined that tube thing whipping out, trying to snag the trailer, to pull me back, drag me into the woods. I imagined that small figure with its ancient, terrible voice somehow keeping pace. I risked a glance in my driver's side mirror. It was standing there, on the shoulder, unmoving. The headlights of my departing truck cast its small silhouette into sharp relief, and behind it, the dark tube was still visible, a thick, obscene cord snaking back into the endless night of the forest. It didn't seem to be retracting or moving. It just was. It didn't pursue me. It stood and watched me go, and that somehow was almost worse. The sheer confidence, the patience, like it knew there would be others, or maybe it was just annoyed that this particular attempt had failed. I drove. I didn't know for how long I drove. My foot was welded to the floor. The engine screamed. I watched the speedometer needle climb far past any legal or safe limit for a rig that size, on a road that dark. But I didn't care. The image of that thing, that child shape with its dark umbilical cord in the woods, the voice, that awful grinding voice asking its horrifying question, was burned on the inside of my eyelids. I must have driven for an hour, maybe more, at speeds that should have gotten me killed or arrested before the adrenaline started to fade, replaced by a bone-deep shaking exhaustion that was far more profound than any fatigue I'd ever known. My hands were trembling so violently I could barely keep the wheel straight. Tears were streaming down my face. Not from sadness, but from sheer unadulterated terror and relief. When the first hint of dawn started to gray the eastern sky and my phone finally beeped, indicating a single bar of service, I pulled over to the first wide spot I could find. I practically fell out of the cab, vomiting onto the gravel until there was nothing left but dry heaves. I sat there on the cold ground shaking for a long time, watching the sun come up, trying to convince myself that it had been a dream, hallucination brought on by exhaustion. But I knew it wasn't. The detail of that tube, the voice, the question. You don't hallucinate something that specific, that coherent, that utterly alien. I never reported it. Who would I report it to? What would I say? Officer, I saw a little kid who was actually an ancient cosmic cord tethered to the woods by a nightmare umbilical cord, and I got mad because I didn't want it to be its dinner. They'd have me locked up, breathalyzed me, drug tested me, sent me for a psych eval. I finished that run on autopilot, dropped the load, drove my rig back to the yard, and I quit. I told them I was burned out, needed a break. They tried to convince me to stay, offered me different routes, more pay, but I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that kid, that tube, those woods. Every dark road felt like a trap. I found a local job, something that keeps me home at night. I don't drive in remote areas anymore if I can help it, especially not at night. I still have nightmares sometimes when I'm very tired driving home late from somewhere. I'll see a flicker at the edge of my vision, on the side of the road, and my heart will try to beat its way out of my chest. I didn't know what the thing was. An alien, a demon, something else, something that doesn't fit into our neat little categories. All I know is that it's out there and it's patient, and seems to have learned that its old tricks aren't as effective as they used to be. Why are humans smarter now? The question haunts me. It implies that they weren't always. It implies that once upon a time we were easier. That maybe, just maybe, people like me, tired and alone on dark roads, used to step out of the cab when asked and were never seen again. So, if you're ever driving one of those long, lonely stretches of road, deep in the night, and you see something you can't explain, maybe just keep driving. Maybe being smarter now means knowing when not to stop, knowing when to ignore the little voice telling you to help, because what's asking for help might not be what it seems. Stay safe out there, and for God's sake, stay on the well-lit roads.
Pretty good.
The drive home tonight
That was good.
Suck.
Yeah.
I literally, because you guys don't know this, I live on like the long highway with no shoulder and
And
a
it is
bunch of
dark.
trees.
There's no
There's
lights.
nothing. There's
Yeah.
nothing. Yeah, that's gonna be great.
Yeah,
I thought that
not
one was
taking the
pretty
scenic
good.
route home.
No. Mm-mm.
No, that was a good story though. I like no man, I liked most for whatever reason I wasn't like a big fan of like that line, the why
Why are humans smarter
I don't know
now?
why, but it took me out of it.
Threw it out a little bit, yeah.
I think it's maybe because I didn't say it in the
well, but
tone
even
and
then,
stuff
was
I
just
needed,
kinda like,
but
I was like, oh man, I think just silence would have sufficed
Yeah.
in that moment. I was
Silence
just like,
would have probably been a little better.
but I still
But I
think
liked it. It was kind of like old god sounding
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing.
yes, like something that's like just not even been.
Yeah, just out
Touched
away
on
from,
yet.
hasn't interacted with humans.
yeah. I mean, no one that's lived through
Yeah.
it, you know, like it's gotten everyone else.
Yeah, like,
But
it's
I'm
like-
sure if you're super tired and stuff too, if like a little kid was like, I just need you to help me like see the
You're not
path
gonna
or something.
notice
No.
especially since he was like, yeah, like you can't, like it's almost like it was absorbing
The
like,
light, there wasn't
light,
any
where it was
reflection or
like,
anything
yeah.
on it.
So I could.
It's just something that is so creepy is, and they do this a lot with kids anyways, and any type of horror
Yeah.
thing. Them going from kind of being, I mean, it wasn't normal at all in the first place, but somewhat normal to just the blank, angry,
like
like
explainable.
this
to,
is
like,
not even,
Yeah.
I like
because
that
they
a lot.
realize it's not working.
Yeah, they're
know
like,
what I mean?
okay, I played my card and it didn't
Yeah.
work, so now I'm gonna.
Yeah. Now it's
It's
just
like, get out now,
Yes.
get out of your freaking car because I'm about to take you
'cause
to
it's
the
not very
woods.
yeah, no, and I mean, which I do like because it's like it's a good good little message too. Is don't stop,
Don't stop.
not worth it.
Call the cops if you can get
Yes.
somewhere where you can have cell reception.
Yeah.
Call the
Somebody
authorities.
gets paid to do that, and it's not
Yeah.
you.
You're not making the money. Just keep on going.
Yeah, it's you know what? That's hey man.
And I don't blame you. The world we live in today, like I'm sure there's plenty of stories where people have used a child to, hey,
Oh,
go
yeah.
stand out by this highway, and when somebody pulls over,
Oh,
give
yeah.
us the code word.
'Cause have you guys-
I'm cold.
Have you seen them videos of where it's like interstate exits and stuff like that? A whole group of people and they have like boards
Like
with
waiting.
nails and stuff like
Yeah,
that, like
waiting.
in the road. And because I've seen a couple of like they're all waiting and like the car sees it and starts backing up, but they're like chasing you
Behind.
down the
It's
thing and
terrifying.
throwing stuff at your car and stuff. And I'm like, yeah,
It's like my
Ain't no
worst
good.
fear.
oh yeah,
100%.
So it's like it's kind of that story's cool because it's real, but it's also like
Yeah,
pretty-
not. Yeah.
yeah. I like
That was cool.
So, I wanted to talk about game Polybius. Basically, 1980s, imagine like
And this is
kids-
legit. Like, is this real?
This people debate it.
Okay.
It's a urban legend.
Okay.
If you will. So people, like it could be real, but it's not actually been proven technically, but it's and even if it is fake, some people think it's based on stuff that was happening at that time that kind of led to this singular idea of like back in the 80s whenever arcade machines and arcades were like super hip. Like that's where everybody was going to. If you were like, under the age of 40 and you had time, you'd go to,
Time
the
and
local-
quarters or dimes
Yes.
or nickels or.
You're headed to the arcade to go hang out, right? That was just the thing to do. I've got a little story. So, in the early months of 1981, something strange happened in Portland, Oregon. Tucked into the back of a few local arcades, a new game appeared. No fanfare, no branding, no marketing campaign, just a cabinet. Solid black, no artwork, no publisher name, and a title glowing in soft green letters, Polybius. The kids who played it couldn't stop talking about it, not at first anyways. It was unlike anything they'd seen before. Fast, hypnotic, visually overwhelming, a mix of geometric puzzles, vector-based shooting, and rapid changes in gameplay style. But it wasn't just the graphics that stood out, it was the feeling. People said the game got inside your head, made you feel things, strange things. Stories begin to circulate. A boy collapses after playing. Another gets violently sick. One disappears for several days and comes back different, disoriented, quiet, like something was missing. Another claimed he couldn't sleep because when he closed his eyes, he still saw the game, saw symbols, patterns, heard sounds that weren't there. Then there were the black-suited men, always in pairs, always silent. They would come into arcades at night or in the early morning, not there to collect quarters, but to access the machines, opening back connecting devices, pulling data. Some witnesses say they were government agents.
I would say like Men in Black or the CIA, like testing things on kids.
Yes.
Bro, that's like all the weird experiments and crap they were doing.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Like, honestly.
Like, literally one of, like, probably the least crazy things that the CIA would do.
Honestly, especially during that time, like, at least they weren't drugging the kids, I guess, but they were just messing up their heads.
Because you gotta think 80s. And, like, the government, I'm sure, like, anytime new technology and new things like that come out, they try to find a way to use it.
Oh, yeah.
To their advantage.
Like, we got some kids coming to this arcade. Let's see what this will do to them if they are consuming this, whatever this content is for this amount of time.
Like anything like that.
Definitely
or what's
there in like the Cold War era too.
Oh yeah. Like this was like 70s, straight 80s. Like this was like back whenever like Russia was the bad guy. We hate Russia, you know, and trying to figure out ways to
mess their people up, mess them up.
Yes. So I could totally see like the government going and like, you know, testing things on, because it wouldn't be the first time.
No.
Wouldn't be the first time.
And it won't be the last.
No. No. All right. And then within a month or two, Polybius was gone. Every machine, every trace, no official record, no photos, no serial numbers, no cabinets turning up in private collections, just a gap, a void. The sort of silence that makes people suspicious. And for decades, the story persisted, at first in whispers, arcade rumors, a name drop here or there. But in the early 2000s, it resurfaced online. A listing appeared on coinop.org, a database of arcade games. Polybius, 1981, manufacturer Stenholischen, some Swedish-looking name. I don't know. The name raised eyebrows. German. It's a fake-sounding German word that translates roughly to loss of senses or sense deletion.
It's totally the government.
Oh yeah,
100%.
It's the government. Like, because then like I don't know. But I could totally see like stuff like that always turns out to be the government.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we got to give it a couple more years, 10, 20 more years for them to come out with the.
They'll drop the files.
Yeah, it'll be out somewhere.
So do people like talk about their experiences with the game, like they remember playing it and stuff? Like,
yeah, like people
there's
like
some accounts.
Yeah, like they said that they played Polybius back in the day, and there's like a couple different stories of what people remember, but like in this, it's like maybe the game wasn't even the same throughout every different, like almost like
it may be different
testing.
at every different arcade, like a different game.
Yeah, it's like testing
And
different
does it like
things.
seem like an actual game whenever you're playing it, or is it just patterns and okay, like
it seemed like an actual game.
Yeah, and it's got and that was the whole thing, was it's got like a whole bunch of different changing kind of gameplay or whatever, and that does make me think like testing or trying different seeing how people react to different things and stuff like that, like reaction times.
I do think it's interesting that it was probably tweaked or different at every single arcade or like the machine, especially if people were randomly coming and checking it.
Yes.
Like no company is gonna come check on their stuff. That they don't care. They don't care.
Yeah, it's gonna be one guy in like a polo, some like logo on this. Yeah, it's not gonna be.
Which this could be this could be a story that someone made up and everyone's tying into it. Which is still cool. Yeah. Even if it's not real, if it wasn't actually a real like a real game, it's still a neat idea. But if it is real, it's 100% our. It's a government.
It's CIA, for sure. Yeah. Players began posting recovered memories of the game, that the music was pulsing and mechanical, that certain patterns in the game would trigger nausea or euphoria or something like a trance, that the track screen didn't say insert coin, it only said things like obey or conform. What? Some claim the game would rewrite its own rules, or that it learned from you. The longer you played, the more it adapted, and the less you remember afterward.
Do you think this was a first AI type of...
Maybe. Learning the players and learning how to change up the game to make it more challenging or something. Maybe. I mean, like, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm pretty sure the government has had access to like AI and stuff like that before we did.
Oh, well,
I think that
there's no
like,
way they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that they have like language models. Like I can't remember, not even the government, but like some of like I think BlackRock. Somebody I've heard where like they had some form of AI that's been making like trades and trade predictions and stuff like that like 10, 20 years ago.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
The public gets everything last.
Yeah, I mean, so I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah. Maybe they were testing, this was the first round of AI, and they're just like, we're to see if we can use it to
freak out some
to
kids.
mess up some kids.
Heck yeah. Let's just jack up the next generation.
Yeah.
Skeptics, of course, call it a hoax. They point out that no ROM dump has ever surfaced, no original hardware, no mention in arcade catalogs or trade magazines from the time, but nothing but modern recreations and whispered claims. But others look deeper. They point out that in 1981, the FBI did raid arcades in Portland, investigating illegal gambling machines. That Tempest, a real game released that same year, was known to cause motion sickness and seizures in players. That another obscure game, Cube Quest, used a strange laserdisc system that glitched and created bizarre visuals when malfunctioning. The pieces almost fit, and the timing lines up just enough to make you wonder, what if someone was testing something? Not a traditional game, but a psychological weapon. A behavioral experiment disguised as entertainment. Something designed not to amuse you, but to measure you, condition you.
Wait, the things that we're constantly bringing into our brain and looking at on a daily basis.
They're changing how we think
What?
about things. No.
Is that why
Social
kids can't
media
pay attention
and-
anymore?
yeah.
The
No.
6-second shorts and
No.
TikTok. I don't see that.
No, I don't.
No
see,
way.
I don't see the government interfering with the content we view on a daily basis at all. No, because you wouldn't. Who would go after the next generation to make them think how they want to?
Yeah, why would we condition
That
people
makes
like
no
that?
sense.
Of anyone.
I'd never do that. I don't
Obey. Literally, you don't even put a
Conform?
coin in.
Nah. No.
Right there when all the hippies and stuff were out and with their weird movements and stuff right after Vietnam, and they're worried about controlling the general public. I don't see it.
Little
Not our
odd.
government.
No. I love our government. I wish I could pay more taxes to them.
I wouldn't say that, but
They only let me take so much out. So.
If I could
It'd
only
be
give
more.
them it all.
It'd be more. Gosh. Would it be that hard to hide? A few prototype machines, a test group of kids unlikely to be believed, a cover-up that only needed to last a few months. And if the test worked, you wouldn't even remember playing it. The story has grown with the internet. Dozens of fan games now exist, each with interpreting that Polybius might have looked like. Lamasoft, an indie developer, even made a commercial version for PS4 and VR. A game filled with hypnotic visuals, flashing colors, and hidden messages. Polybius has shown up in The Simpsons, Loki, 9 Inch Nail videos, and conspiracy theory YouTube channels.
I didn't know it was in any 9 Inch Nail videos.
Right? Isn't that sick? That's pretty cool. Yeah, it has never been found, never conclusively debunked. It exists in a strange space, just believable enough to chill you, just vague enough to evade the truth. And maybe that's the genius of it. Maybe it was never meant to be remembered clearly. Maybe it was never a game at all, just a shadow, a glitch, a test we failed to notice. So if you ever see it, a black cabinet, no markings, just that glowing green title, Polybius, don't play it. Or do. Just try to remember what happens next.
that's cool.
Pretty good.
That's
I
really
do.
cool.
It is. It's like I've always, because I've seen. There's one YouTube video. I don't even know what the channel is. You've probably seen it too. Like a dude just talking about. I might have it pulled up.
Yeah, I watched his video
Yeah.
on it a while back.
Way back in the day. Like it's probably at least a decade old at this point. Yeah, I remember watching that years ago and just being like, yeah, that's pretty sick.
Mm-hmm.
May not be real, but if it is, oh, it's the government.
Yeah.
It's the government.
Even if
doubt
it's
about it.
not real, what a cool idea.
Yeah.
Like, what a cool concept and for
'Cause,
people
like,
to build on.
That'd be perfect because back in the 80s or whatever, whenever, yeah, like this technology's brand new and everybody's interacting with arcade machines, like that would be a perfect time too if the government wanted to test out using, electronic visual hypnosis or something like that, mind control. But they can't do it to other countries because that's
Yeah.
like, gonna be bad if they find out.
Yeah.
So they
We'll just do it to our own kids.
Yeah, no,
and
yeah.
nobody will believe them because they're kids.
Yeah, and like this is the 80s, so it's like nobody's worried about like anybody putting anything on the internet.
No.
It's like it didn't exist. So yeah. If it were to have happened, 100% video game arcade, the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
perfect
cool.
environment. So
I really like that. That's a good one.
I thought that was pretty slick.
I feel like the name sounds a little bit familiar to me, but I don't really know. I didn't know about that. So I like that a lot. That's cool.
Cool.
All right. And to end us off, I'm going to read a quick little excerpt Theodore Roosevelt wrote about.
Top 4 president.
Yeah.
Teddy's
easily.
my man.
Yeah, you got him on 3?
I got him in 3. Frontiersmen are not, as a rule, apt to be very superstitious. They lead lives too hard and practical and have too little imagination in things spiritual and supernatural. I've heard but few ghost stories while living on the frontier, and these few were of a perfectly commonplace and conventional type. But once I listened to a goblin story which rather impressed me. It was told by a grizzled, weather-beaten old mountain hunter named Bauman, who was born and had passed all his life on the frontier. He must have believed what he said, for he could hardly repress a shudder at certain points of the tale. But he was of German ancestry, and in childhood had doubtlessly been saturated with all kinds of ghost and goblin lore, so that many fearsome superstitions were latent in his mind. Besides, he knew well the stories told by the Indian medicine men in their winter camps, of the snow walkers and the specters, and the formless evil beings that haunt the forest depths, and dog and waylay the lonely wanderer who after nightfall passes through regions where they lurk. When the event occurred, Bauman was still a young man, and was trapping with a partner among the mountains, dividing the forks of the Salmon from the head of Wisdom River. Not having had much luck, he and his partner determined to go up into a particularly wild and lonely pass, through which ran a small stream said to contain many beaver. The pass had an evil reputation, because the year before a solitary hunter who had wandered into it there was slain, seemingly by a wild beast, the half-eaten remains being afterwards found by some mining prospectors who had passed by his camp only the night before. The memory of this event, however, weighed very lightly with the two trappers, who were as adventurous and hardy as any other of their kind. They took their 2 lean mountain ponies to the foot of the pass, where they left them in an open beaver meadow, the rocky timber-clad ground being from thence onwards impracticable for horses. They then struck out on foot through the vast, gloomy forest, and in about 4 hours reached a little open glade where they concluded to camp, as signs of game were plenty. There was still an hour or 2 of daylight left, and after building brush lean-to and throwing down and opening their packs, they started upstream. The country was very dense and hard to travel through, as there was much down timber, although here and there the somber woodland was broken by small glades of mountain grass. At dusk, they again reached camp. The glade in which it was pitched was not many yards wide, the tall, close-set pines and firs rising round it like a wall. On one side was a little stream, beyond which rose the steep mountain slopes, covered with the unbroken growth of the evergreen forest. They were surprised to find that during their short absence, something apparently a bear had visited their camp and had rummaged about their things, scattering the contacts of their packs, and in sheer wantonness destroying their lean-to. The footprints of the beast were quite plain, but at first they paid no particular heed to them, busying themselves with rebuilding the lean-to, laying out their beds and stores, and lighting a fire. While Bauman was making ready supper, being already dark, his companion began to examine the tracks more closely, and soon took a brand from the fire to follow them up, where the intruder had walked along a game trail after leaving their camp. When the brand flickered out, he returned and took another, repeating his inspection of the footprints very closely. Coming back to the fire, he stood by it a minute or 2, peering out into the darkness, and suddenly remarked, "Bauman, that bear has been walking on 2 legs." Bauman laughed at this, but his partner insisted that he was right, and upon again examining the tracks with a torch, they certainly did seem to be made by 2 paws or feet. However, it was too dark to be sure. After discussing whether the footprints could possibly be those of a human being and coming to the conclusion that they could not, the 2 men rolled up their blankets and went to sleep under the lean.
There's no way. There is no way.
The beast walks on 2 feet.
Even if it was a bear,
Well,
there's no way. I'd just be like, all right, I guess let's just get on to bed.
Yep, it's about bedtime, boys.
Like, oh, y'all see those
Let's all settle
huge footprints? Even if it was a bear, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to sleep.
Jim, you get right by the footprints. I'll stay over here. You let me know.
You sleep by the door.
You
And
see what goes on.
At midnight, Bauman was awakened by some noise and sat up in his blankets. As he did so, his nostrils were struck by a strong, wild beast odor, and he caught the loom of a great body in the darkness at the mouth of the lean-to. Grasping his rifle, he fired at the vague, threatening shadow, but must have missed, for immediately afterwards he heard the smashing of the underwood as the thing, whatever it was, rushed off into the impenetrable blackness of the forest and the night. After this, the two men slept but little.
No kidding.
I wonder why. After this, the two men slept but little, sitting by the rekindled fire, but they heard nothing more. In the morning, they started out to look at the few traps they had set the previous evening and to put out new ones. By an unspoken agreement, they kept together all day and returned to camp towards evening. They made a smart move there.
Yeah. I would say, like, it's so funny it being two guys and, like, neither of them are going to be like, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Like, but they both made sure that they were together the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, you sleep good, Jim.
Well, I guess I'll go run the traps with you. Yeah. I wouldn't mind some company.
Yes.
I guess you can come along if you'd like.
Said, I think this one's a little heavy today. We might get might be a two-man job on this one.
On nearing the camp, they saw, hardly to their astonishment, that the lean-to had been torn down again. The visitor of the preceding day had returned, and in wanton malice had tossed about their camp kit, bedding, and destroyed the shanty. The ground was marked up by its tracks. Leaving the camp, it had gone along the soft earth by the brook, where the footprints were as plain as if on snow. And after a careful scrutiny of the trail, it certainly did seem as if, whatever the thing was, it had walked off on but two legs.
Like, okay, this thing is sending us a message.
It might be
It
time
doesn't want us to be
It
here.
might be time to pack up, boys. I don't know. I mean, which I wonder. So Theodore, like who is he writing this for?
Someone told him this story, right?
Well, that's what he says in the. I believe this excerpt come from one of his books. I don't remember which one, but in the story he says that this is a story he heard from at the beginning. He says from another traveler,
The Bowen or
Mr. Bowman. There are some people that think this was actually something that Theodore experienced himself.
but he just didn't want to say
And
it.
not wanting, he didn't want to make it. Yeah, he didn't want to look like he was superstitious.
Because
so
when
he
the
was
president
just like,
writes about, man, I think I saw some bear, but it wasn't a bear, dude.
Yeah.
Don't want to.
Do you think that he was the other guy with Mr. Bowman, maybe?
He could be Mr. Bowman, and
Yeah.
no one really knows. There's a chance either way. He could have just really heard the story and thought it was interesting, so he threw it in one of his books. Mm-hmm. You know, because he was such a big outdoorsman.
Yeah,
The men, thoroughly uneasy, gathered a great heap of dead logs and kept a roaring fire throughout the night. One or the other sat on guard most of the time. About midnight, the thing came down from the forest opposite, across the brook, and stayed there on the hillside for nearly an hour.
Oh my gosh.
They could hear branches crackle as it moved about, and several times it uttered a harsh, grating, long drone moan. Peculiarly sinister sound. I can't pronounce some words.
It's
It's been a while since
It sounds right in my head, but it doesn't come out right. Yet it did not venture near the fire. In the morning, the two trappers, after discussing the strange events of the last 36 hours, decided that they would shoulder their packs and leave the valley that afternoon.
It just took it having to watch them for an hour making weird noises, breaking stuff.
I think maybe it doesn't want us here. Just get the feeling.
After it watched me last night for about an hour across
gremlin
the
in
brook.
woods is giving me bad vibes. They were the more ready to do this because, in spite of seeing a good deal of game sign, they had caught very little fur. However, it was necessary first to go along the line of their traps and gather them, and this they started out to do. All the morning they kept together, picking up trap after trap, each one empty. On first leaving camp, they had this disagreeable sensation of being followed. In the dense spruce thickets, they occasionally heard a branch snap after they had passed, and now and then there were slight rustling noises among the small pines to one side of them.
I respect the hustle though. Like, we can't leave. You gotta, like, make sure the traps are good, dog. You know, you don't leave when the fish are biting. So
Yeah.
Do you think that it was either taking stuff out of their traps
for
or
sure.
like keeping it from like getting it before they got into the traps?
Because I think
either or, yeah.
even just the mention of like, hey man, there's like nothing, like, for
We're not-
whatever reason.
Yeah, there's sign
He was
everywhere, and we're
probably
not catching
mad
any
that they
fish.
were trying to trap stuff
Oh,
because
in
he's
his
like, this is
hunting
my,
area.
yeah, this
Yeah.
is my area.
territory.
This is where I get my lunch, my breakfast, my
I'm just
dinner.
watching them leave.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know if I'd go back.
I would never go outside again because if something's watching me, like, I'm assuming this is Bigfoot is my assumption,
Yeah.
is what I would guess. And everything that I hear about Bigfoot is that he don't play around.
Yeah.
He will stalk you. He will come to where you're at. And he'll jack your stuff up.
He's gonna
like-
time travel and teleport to your location.
Yeah.
Get you. He gonna get you. All right. Hide your wives.
My Bigfoot was one of the things I grew up the most scared of because we would go to Bo's house. He'd put all that weird Bigfoot crap on,
Yeah.
and it wasn't just like the guys like, oh, we're out here Bigfoot hunting, hitting on. It's
Yeah.
like this Bigfoot came to my house and it killed my kid or
Yeah,
something.
like the scary Bigfoot movies and stuff.
And you're like, all right, well, time for bed,
Yeah.
Wasn't
guys.
any rednecks running around in the woods filming themselves
Yeah,
on
no.
iPhones.
Oh man.
At noon, they were back within a couple miles of camp. In the high, bright sunlight, their fears seemed absurd to the two armed men, accustomed as they were through long years of lonely wandering in the wilderness to face every kind of danger from man, brute, or element. There were still 3 beaver traps to collect from a little pond in a wide ravine nearby. Bauman volunteered to gather these and bring them in while his companion went ahead to the camp and made ready the packs.
Oh, yikes.
Yep, splitting the party. Never
Not
a good
good.
idea.
Those traps would stay in that pond because I ain't going to get them.
I think they'll be fine for a day.
Yeah. How they had to have put out a ton of traps if it was taking them.
Oh, I'm sure back with the way they trapped, it was as many as they could get out.
Really?
Yeah. On reaching the pond, Bauman found 3 beavers in the traps, one of which had been pulled loose and carried to a beaver house. He took several hours in securing and preparing the beaver, and when he started homewards, he marked with some uneasiness how low the sun was getting. As he hurried towards camp under the tall trees, the silence and desolation of the forest weighed on him. His feet made no sound on the pine needles, and the slanting sun rays striking through among the straight trunks made a gray twilight in which objects at a distance glimmered indistinctly. There was nothing to break the ghostly stillness, which, when there is no breeze, always broods over these somber, primeval forests.
I feel like this does have to be Teddy Roosevelt because the detail and description.
Yeah.
You reckon?
I don't
Either
think
he
you would
took a
hear.
lot of like story
artistic
and then
liberty to-
and then took a little
Yeah.
artistic liberty to kind of brighten the
Yeah.
the
Enough to
the
write
fellas
it in
like,
this.
yeah, he learned how to. I mean, these guys knew everything.
Yeah.
You know, real legends out there.
Which I don't blame him. Like, if you are in
Yeah.
that position, you don't want people to be
I'd
like,
do
oh,
the
he's
same
crazy.
thing. I'd be
Yeah.
like, this is
Yeah.
a crazy story I heard.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You just want to get it off your chest, you know. At last he came to the edge of the little glade where their camp lay and shouted as he approached it, but got no answer. The campfire had gone out, though the thin blue smoke was still curling upwards. Near it lay the packs, wrapped and arranged. At first, Bauman could see no one, nor did he receive an answer to his call. Stepping forward again, he shouted, and as he did so, his eye fell on the body of his friend, stretched beside the trunk of a great fallen spruce. Rushing towards it, the horrified trapper found that the body was still warm, but the neck was broken, while there were 4 great fang marks in the throat. The footprints of the unknown beast creature printed deep in the soil the whole story. The unfortunate man, having finished his packing, had sat down on the spruce log with his face to the fire and his back to the dense woods to wait for his companion. While thus waiting, his monstrous assailant, which must have been lurking nearby in the woods, waiting for a chance to catch one of the adventurers unprepared, came silently up from behind, walking with long, noiseless steps and seemingly on 2 legs. Evidently unheard, it reached the man, and broke his neck by wrenching his head back with its forepaws, while it buried its teeth in his throat. It had not eaten the body, but apparently had romped and gamboled round it in uncouth, ferocious glee, occasionally rolling over and over it, and had then fled back into the soundless depths of the wood. Bauman, utterly unnerved and believing that the creature with which he had to deal with was something either half human or half devil, some great goblin beast, abandoned everything but his rifle and struck off at a speed down the pass, not halting until he reached the beaver meadows where the hobbled ponies were still grazing. Mounting, he rode onwards through the night until far beyond the reach of pursuit.
What do you do? Like, just leave his body there? I guess.
That's what he done. That's what I'd have done.
I mean,
That's
'cause here's the deal, too,
awful.
is whenever he's talking about that story, or whenever he's talking about it killing him, he's like, it didn't even do it to eat it. Or
No,
it
No,
wasn't
just
he
like
said
because
survival.
out of joy, like
yeah, it
the
looked like
glee.
after he
Like he enjoyed it.
Yeah, he had rolled and
Yes, and was just
rolled around on the body and stuff like a dog on
Mm-hmm.
something.
yes, just like almost like a cat playing with its like food. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Before it kills it, just like messing with it. Yeah. So I don't know, but
Like
he
it was
made
like
the
a
right call.
sport, a hunting sport for
Yeah.
the creature, or Bigfoot.
And
Yeah.
that was out of his book, The Wilderness Hunter.
What I wonder about that book is if the rest of it's literally just like his stories, and then out of nowhere he's just
This
Drop
random
this one in
story.
I think so. I think most of it is his like tales.
so yeah,
Which
so
makes it
then he
seem
just
even
makes you look
more
like
that it could be him.
that it's just like a
Which I'm sure he did see a lot of stuff. He went on a
Yeah.
lot of,
Oh yeah,
Dude,
he wrote a bunch of books and was all over the world.
yeah.
because this guy he was like, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's the one that would just like be gone from the White House for like 3 months and nobody like actually knew where he was,
I
but he's
think,
like having
yeah,
a
it's
cabin or
just like,
something
yeah.
somewhere. Yeah, shout out Teddy Glenn. Literally,
He's
like,
probably one of my, he probably is like
Top
one
five.
of my, yeah, for sure.
Top
Top
five.
presidents for sure.
should we go into the least favorite list too?
That might spark some controversy.
One.
I'll save that for the next one. All right. It's 11 o'clock, boys. So we'll go ahead. I get to close this out this time. So thank you for joining us in today's episode. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. And we want to hear from you. Okay. If you've got any topic ideas, stories, if you want to list your top 5 favorite presidents or least favorite, it's really up to you. Do it in the comments. Send us an email at fearandflamefromu@gmail.com. And you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, any of your favorite podcast listening platforms. And until
TikTok
next time,
too.
we're on TikTok.
We're gonna do some
On
TikTok,
TikTok.
shorts.
Well, follow us
So
on TikTok. Watch our shorts if you haven't yet already. There's a couple interesting ones.
to say the least.
And until next time, that's been Fear and Flame, dude.
Yep. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Take
Bye,
it easy,
guys.
y'all.
Whoop whoop.
Bye bye.